My name is Esther, and I am going to be teaching the topic theory of demand and supply. The theory, demand, and supply. Okay, good. Okay, so demand of a commodity is the quantity of a commodity or service that a consumer is willing to buy at a particular price and at a particular time. Emphasis on the price and time. So demand is the quantity of a commodity that a consumer is willing to buy at a particular price and at a particular time. And there are certain things that we need to note. We need to note that price changes with time. Price of a commodity changes with time. Which okay, I'm going to just be using the example of the nation Nigeria. The there's which good should I use? Okay, let me assume Beloxi biscuit. A pack of Beloxi biscuit that you bought last month is not the same price. The price that you bought it last month is not the same price you're going to get it this month. So price changes with time, and demand is ineffective when it is not backed up with the ability to pay, which means that if you don't have money, you cannot demand for a good. Or ultimately, even if you demand for a good, there's no way you're going to be able to purchase or acquire that good if you don't have the money to pay for the good. So demand is ineffective when it's not backed up with the ability to pay. And yes, demand is a function of price. Now moving on, we're going to be talking on the law of demand. The law of demand. The law of demand. The law of demand states that the higher the price, the lower the quantity demanded. That is, demand is inversely proportional to the price. The higher the price of a commodity, the lower the quantity demanded of that commodity. If you wanted, maybe you want to buy two sachets of Indomie, and probably maybe you used to get it 200 naira per sachet before. That means if you are getting two, that means to be 400 naira. But if there's an increase in the price of Indomie from 200 naira to probably 500 naira, and now you have to get two packets of Indomie for 1,000 naira. Obviously, you want to run away. So the higher the price of a commodity, the lower the quantity demanded, which means that demand is inversely proportional to price. This is demand, and this is price. So as the price of a commodity increases, demand reduces. So let me just write it this way as demand when it okay. Sorry, let me take that back. When the price of a commodity increases, demand decreases. That is the law of demand. While the law of supply states that the higher the price of a commodity, the higher the quantity supplied, which is looking at it from the perspective of the manufacturer. Which means if you were producing, let's still continue using our Indomie example. If you were producing a carton of Indomie at a particular price, the moment there's an increase in the general price of Indomie, let's say you used to sell a carton for 12,000 before, and the government or something happened, maybe there's an inflation or something, and it happens, and then you now have the ability to sell that one carton that used to sell for 12,000 for 15,000. Obviously, as a supplier or as a manufacturer, you want to sell more. So yes, the higher the price of a commodity, the higher the supply of that commodity. So moving on, we're going to be looking at the graph of the demand graph. So it is something like this. On the x-axis, you have the quantity demanded, and on the y-axis, you have the price of that commodity. So this is just to illustrate the law of demand I already spoke about. Let's assume this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, this is 5. I'm just trying to draw a graph, and this is, let's say 5, the price of this is 10, price of this is 15, maybe this is 20, and probably 25, and so on and so forth. So we said the higher the price of the commodity, the lower the quantity demanded. So the demand curve slopes from left to right. So the higher the price of the commodity, the lower the quantity demanded. So let's just assume that this one falls within this range. This one comes here. Don't mind my shaky graph. And this one comes here. Yes, so let's make this bold. Sorry, this is supposed to fall on one. So the graph falls from left to right. So yes, this is your demand. This is what the demand curve looks like. Now moving on, we're going to be looking at the determinants of demand. Determinants of demand, those are things that determines the quantity of a good that is demanded. Number one, you have the price of the commodity. Price of the commodity that you want to buy. That's what is going to affect what sorry. That's what's going to affect how much you're going to get of a particular commodity. The price of the commodity. Number two, you have the price of other commodities. Price of other commodities, which includes substitute goods and complementary goods. Now, substitute goods are goods that you can use, as the name implies, to replace another good. For example, substitute good, you can say milk. Let's use the example of milk. We can use peak milk and dano milk. So substitute goods, dano milk can be a substitute for peak milk. But as I usually say, it's rich people that take peak milk. So yes, peak substitute goods are goods which you can easily replace with one another. So the price of one commodity is directly proportional to the demand of the substitute goods. That's part of the determinants of demand. You also have the consumer's income. Consumer's income. You have taste and fashion. That's consumer's preference. If you prefer something to one other thing, obviously you want to buy what you prefer than the one that you do not have interest in. So fashion, taste, or interest. And lastly, on my list, you have population. Yes, as population increases, as population increases, the demand of the commodity increases. So in a class of 10 students, they most definitely would need more Indomie than a class of 5 students. So an increase in population causes an increase in the demand. Okay, so moving to the next page, I'm going to be talking about the change in quantity demanded versus change in demand. Change in quantity demanded, change is represented as a triangle. This is change. So change in quantity demanded, like I said, do not mind my handwriting, versus change in demand. Okay, so the quantity demanded, change in quantity demanded occurs due to a change in price of a commodity, and it is depicted as a movement along a single demand curve. Now, mind you, I said a demand curve slopes from left to right. So from left to right. So the change in quantity demanded is denoted as a movement along this single demand curve. Okay, so it means that let's assume the price was here, the price was here, the price was here, the price was here. So that means let's adjust this. So it's there's a change in the quantity demanded. Let's assume maybe formerly they were ordering for, let's say this is 4, or let's say this is 3, this is 2, this is 1, this is 4. If originally you were ordering for three three quantities of Indomie, the price will definitely be a different price. Let's just so that means that there's a movement along this demand curve. Okay, so the change in demand Okay, let me just take a quick recap. When change in quantity demanded occurs due to change in price of that commodity, and it can be depicted as a movement along a single demand curve. While change in demand is due to factors other than the price of that commodity. That means change in demand is not affected, it's not exactly affected by the price of the commodity, it's affected by other factors, which includes consumers' income, population, price of other commodities, taste and fashion, etc. etc. Sorry. Okay, so graphically, change in demand is shown as a shift in demand curve. Change in demand is shown as a shift in demand curve. So let's draw our demand curve again. This is the quantity, this is the price. So let's assume the initial demand curve was this initial demand curve. Let's say D naught, D naught. Yeah, and we're saying a shift in demand curve. Let's say a backward shift. Okay, graphically, change in demand is shown as a shift in demand curve. A forward shift in demand curve, a forward shift in demand curve means that there has been an increase in the price in the demand. So indicates that there's an increase in demand. While a backward shift is something like this. This is our D. This would be our D naught. Yes, let's say this was the initial demand that we had, and now it moves backward. This means a decrease in demand, and this indicates an increase in demand. So a forward shift in the demand curve indicates an increase in demand, while a backward shift in the demand curve indicates a decrease in demand. So now let's move on to the elasticity of demand. I feel like this is my favorite topic. But anyways, elasticity of demand. My life is so nice. So elasticity of demand is defined as the degree of responsiveness of quantity demanded to change in price. Let me take that again. Elasticity, price elasticity of demand is defined as the degree of responsiveness of quantity demanded to a change in price. So price elasticity of demand is denoted as elasticity of demand is is the degree of responsiveness of quantity demanded to change in price. Now the formula to calculate elasticity of demand is the percentage change in quantity demanded over the percentage change in price. Did you get that? Percentage change in quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in price. Now the percentage change in, let's break it down. Percentage change in, okay, let's take it slowly. Okay, slowly. Yep. Percentage change in quantity demanded is, that's a different formula for that one. This one is broken down to change in quantity demanded over quantity demanded times 100. That's for percentage change in quantity demanded. Now percentage change in price is similar, but percent is change in price over price times 100. Now let's break this down. Change in quantity demanded is is the final quantity demanded minus the initial quantity demanded. Okay, I think I used up my space. Let me try to manage my small space. Okay, so change in quantity demanded is change in final quantity minus change in initial quantity. That means let's say, okay, I already gave an example of Indomie and I said 200 to 500. So 200 was the initial price, 500 was the final price that I gave. So that's for change in quantity. So that means if we were to break this down, it would be, if we were to break this down into like using this, it would be something like Q2 minus Q1 over Q times 100, but we don't want to make matters complex. So let's just leave it at this. But let's just bear this in mind that change in quantity is the initial, is the final minus the initial. Praise the Lord. Okay, I'm just joking. Let's stop kidding. Okay. So now if we were to bring these two formulas together, elasticity of demand will be equal to change in quantity demanded over quantity demanded times 100 divided by change in price over price times 100. So according to the basic rules of mathematics, this division symbol will become a multiplication. So we have elasticity of demand equals change in quantity demanded over QD times 100. Then this becomes multiplication times P times 100 over change in P. So let's break it down now. Elasticity of demand equals 100P change in QD. That means we've multiplied all this from the up part. That's what gives us this. Then for the down part, we have 100 QD change in price. So yes, 100 does cancel 100, and all you have left is P change in Q over Q change in P. So that is the final. You can either use this formula, or you make use of this formula. But yes, this formula also breaks down and gives us the last formula. So yes, moving to the next page. Demand can either be elastic, inelastic, or it can be unitary elastic. This is an R, unitary elastic. So a small change in price that leads to a high change in quantity demanded makes a good elastic. That means any good that when there's a tiny little change in the price, there's a massive change in the quantity demanded, that good is said to be elastic. That good is said to be elastic. So that means, let's say, let me put it in brackets, big small change in price, big change in quantity demanded. That's for elastic goods. And elastic goods are greater than 1. It's always greater than 1. So inelastic goods, it shows that this one is when there's a small change in price, small change in price, it leads to a lower change in quantity demanded. That means a smaller change in QD. That's for inelastic, and inelastic goods are less than 1. Less than 1. Now unitary goods, unitary elastic rather, is when the percentage change in quantity demanded is the same as percentage change in price. That means that there is unitary, that like it is unitary elastic. That's the degree of responsiveness, it is elastic. Now for perfectly elastic goods, perfectly elastic Perfectly elastic good means that when the quantity demanded is changing without any change in price. When the quantity demanded of a good is changing without any change in price, that means it is perfectly elastic and it is denoted as infinity. Infinity. Yes. Infinity. Not the one in Avengers though. Not the infinity stone, but infinity symbol. Yeah, dry joke. Okay. Then the next one we have perfectly inelastic. Perfectly inelastic. Okay, let me just draw the graph for perfectly elastic here. It means that there is no change in price. That's why it is straight. But for perfectly inelastic, the price changes when the price changes, but the quantity demanded does not change. Except for perfectly elastic, which is this one, number four, the quantity demanded changes without any change in price. That means the quantity demanded changes on its own. But for perfectly inelastic, it means that the price changes, but the quantity demanded does not change. So this is the way the graph looks like, where you have your price here and your quantity demanded here. And it is denoted as EP equals to 0. Yes. So moving on to the determinants of elasticity of demand, you have availability of close substitutes, number of uses, proportion of income spent on the commodity, and necessity and luxury goods. Necessity goods are inelastic, which means that necessity goods are sorry, necessity goods are inelastic, which means that the price changes but the quantity of that good does not change. While luxury goods are goods where um luxury goods are elastic. Luxury goods are elastic goods where when there's a small change in price, there's a high change in the quantity demanded. While for necessity it is inelastic, that means that a small change in price leads to a lower change in quantity demanded. Okay, so that is that, and then yes, under determinant of elasticity, you also have habit, which is inelastic. Okay, so that's that about price elasticity. Now moving on to the next one under elasticity, we have income elasticity of demand. Income elasticity of demand. Okay, income elasticity of demand is the degree of responsiveness of the quantity demanded to change in income. It is the degree of responsiveness of the quantity demanded to change in income. Mind you, for elasticity of demand, which is for price elasticity, I said it is the degree of responsiveness of quantity demanded to change in price. While now I'm saying income elasticity is the degree of responsiveness of quantity demanded to change in income, as the name denotes. So for price, it changes with respect to price, but for income, quantity demanded changes with respect to a change in income. So yes, as economics, the economics represents income as Y. Yeah. Well, there are a lot of meanings for Y in economics, but let's just take it as Y in this case. So yes, Y is or A is income. Y is income. So elasticity of income is EY, and that is similar, but it is percentage change in, yes, you can sing along, say along. Percentage change in quantity demanded over percentage change in income. The other time we said it was percentage change in quantity demanded or percentage change in price. Now for income elasticity, it is percentage change in quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in income. So yes, it is still the same method, and when you break it down, you are getting change in quantity demanded over quantity demanded times 100 divided by change in income over income times 100. When you break it down, it gives you this cancels out. Sorry, this cancels out. Then you now have y, not this y, not this y, this y. Okay, let me just take it slowly. Let's take it slowly. Yeah. So change in quantity demanded over q multiplied by y over change in y. So if we continue, it gives y change in q over q change in y. So that is that under income elasticity of demand. Now, on the basis of income elasticity of demand, commodities are classified as normal goods and inferior goods. On the basis of income, they're classified as normal goods and inferior goods. Now, normal goods are goods that are said to those are goods that the demand for those goods increases when there's an increase in income, which means if you get more money, you tend to buy more of those kind of goods. But inferior goods are goods that as your income increases, the demand for them decreases, which means when you have more money, you tend to maybe you don't want to get those kind of things anymore because now you have more money, you feel like you are richer, you want to get more luxurious items. So those are inferior goods. Inferior goods are goods which, as income increases, the demand decreases. Okay, so those are the classification of goods based on income elasticity. Under income elasticity. So for normal goods, I said the elasticity is positive and greater than 1, while for inferior goods, the elasticity is negative and less than 1. So for normal goods, it is positive and greater than 1, but for inferior, it is negative and less than 1. This is under elasticity. Don't mind me writing, okay? So that is that under income elasticity. Now we move to cross price elasticity of demand. Cross price elasticity of demand. Okay. So cross price elasticity of demand is the degree of responsiveness of the quantity demanded of a commodity to the change in price of another commodity. Let me take that again. The degree of responsiveness of the quantity demanded of a commodity to the change in price of another commodity. That means the quantity demanded of a commodity, like how responsive the quantity demanded of a commodity is to the change in price of another commodity is known as cross price elasticity of demand. So let me write cross price elasticity of demand. Okay. So yes, it is the degree of responsiveness of the quantity demanded of the commodity to change in price of another commodity. And cross price, just like from the definition, we can pick that there are two different commodities. So we're going to be having X and Y. X and Y. X is the first commodity, Y is the second commodity. So the formula is denoted as elasticity of X and Y, which is according to the definition, it is degree of responsiveness of the quantity demanded of X to the degree of response to the change in price of Y. Okay, so we have that, and yes, it is also a similar formula, which is um change in Q X. Let's say QD of X is Q X, and price of Y. This is QX, and price of Y is PY. So that's just to clarify things. And let me make it. Okay. QX, but changing percentage change in price of Y. So change in quantity of X over X times 100 divided by change in price of Y over Y, sorry, over Y times, okay, Y times, let me just Just so I'm used to managing space. Okay, so change in quantity demanded of x over q over x. Sorry, that's a mistake. Okay, let's change in q x over x times 100 divided by change in price of y over y times 100. Yes, so if we break this down like we did, if we break this down like we did here to get this final formula, we're going to have something like this: py change in q over x, yes, over x, this is qx over x change in py. Yes, so I'm going to leave this in your hands to break it down and get this. So you can make use of either this, or you can make use of either this, or this. Depends on parameters that you are given. If directly in a question you're already given the change in quantity of the first commodity and you've been given the change in price of the second commodity, you can easily make use of this. But if in the question you are given, maybe they broke it down, they gave you the quantity demanded, and then they gave you the um the price of the other commodity, you can also make use of this. And then if they now say, okay, oh, you have to sort for everything yourself, then you can make use of this depending on the question that you have been given. So moving on, we've spoken about price elasticity of demand, which a brief recap says that it is the degree of responsiveness of quantity demanded to change in price. We said income elasticity of demand is the degree of responsiveness of quantity demanded to change in income, and cross price elasticity of demand is the degree of responsiveness of the quantity demanded of one commodity to the change in price of another commodity. So now we're going on to the marriage between demand and supply. Marriage between D and S. Marriage between demand and supply. Let's make it a blissful marriage. Okay. Um, Marriage between demand and supply. That's like to show the relationship between demand and supply. Now, demand and supply are the two invisible ants in a free market that determines the price of a commodity. The quantity of a good demanded is what will determine the price of that good, and the quantity of a good supplied is what will determine the price of that good. Now, there's something called price floor and price ceiling. Price floor and price ceiling. Price floor is when is an embargo that the government places on the price of a particular good to keep it below equilibrium. To keep it below equilibrium. So price floor is denoted as quantity when is price floor occurs when the quantity demanded is greater than the quantity supplied, which means you have more goods, like people want to buy more than what you actually have in market. Then price ceiling is denoted as quantity supplied when okay, price ceiling is when quantity supplied is greater than quantity demanded. That means the price is above equilibrium. And when you say when demand is more than supply, what do you have? Surplus. Yes. When demand is sorry, I'm so sorry. It means you have shortage. So I mixed it up. So yes, when demand is more than supply, you have shortage. You have shortage. That means more people want a commodity, but they don't. The supply is not enough. So there's shortage of that commodity. Just like you said, in a class of 50 people, 50, all the 50 people want. Okay, I supply. Let's assume I'm a supplier of biscuit, and in a carton of biscuit I have 40, and all the 50 people want the biscuit I have, but all I have is 40 as a supplier. So that means there's a shortage of biscuits because I can only supply 40 to 50%. While for price ceiling, when the supply is more than the demand, that means I'm even giving them more than what they ask for. That means there's going to be more than enough for everybody to go around, and it will even remain. So it means that there is surplus in the economy. So when the quantity demanded is greater than the quantity supplied, there is what? A shortage. And when the quantity supplied is greater than the quantity demanded, there is a surplus of that commodity. Now, equilibrium is a state whereby the quantity demanded equals the quantity supplied. This is what we call equilibrium. Equilibrium. Yes. Okay. So now let's move on to some practice questions, shall we? We already established the fact that at equilibrium, quantity demanded equals quantity supplied, or vice versa, quantity supplied equals quantity demanded. Which is equilibrium. Now excuse me, at equilibrium, yeah. Okay, so we have a practice question that says that given that the given that the quantity demanded equals 500 minus 2p, and quantity supplied equals minus 100 plus 4p plus 4p. What we're asked to determine the equilibrium quantity and price. Determine the equilibrium quantity and equilibrium price. Then suppose the price is okay. Let's take a question after question. So we're asked to determine the equilibrium quantity and equilibrium price. So at equilibrium, we already stated that at equilibrium quantity demanded equals quantity supplied. So what I'm going to do basically is just equate these two equations to get the equilibrium quantity and equilibrium price. So 500 minus 2p equals minus 100 plus 4p. Okay, let's take it step by step. Now we have 500. Let's make this crossover. Let's make this crossover to this place, and this one crosses over to this place. So 500 when minus 100 crosses over, it becomes positive. So 500 minus plus 100 equals 4p, and when negative crosses over, it becomes positive again, equals 4p plus 2p, which means you have 600 equals 6p. Now make p the separate of the formula, which is p equals 600 over 6, which is 100. So that means our equilibrium price is 100. We're using naira, so yes, 100 naira. And to go out of pages, what's the next page? To get the equilibrium quantity. Now I already said the equilibrium. Let me just write the question again. QD equals 500 minus 2p. QS equals minus 100 plus 4p. We said our equilibrium price is 100, yes. So now to get the equilibrium quantity, just substitute this into either this or into either this. So if you put this, let's make use of the first one. Let's say 500 minus 2, 100. That will give us 500 equals, 500 minus 200, which will equals 300. That means our equilibrium quantity is 300. That's for this side. Now let's do for this side too. Let's say 100 minus 100, mind you, we have a minus here. Minus 100 plus 4 into bracket 100, which is the equilibrium price that we got here. So now I have minus 100 plus 400. 400 minus 100 will give you 300. So either of the equations that you use should still give you the same answer. That's how you know that you are on the right track, because it's at equilibrium at equilibrium, quantity demanded must equal to quantity supplied. So yes, we know that our equilibrium quantity is 300 because it is the same. So our equilibrium price from this question, our equilibrium price is 100. And our equilibrium quantity is 300. Okay, now moving to the next question, we are asked to set suppose the price is fixed at 90 naira, determine the shortage or surplus as the case may be. Suppose the price is fixed at 90 naira, determine the shortage or surplus as the case may be. So for this question, for the B part, they already gave us our price to be 90 naira. So they said we should determine if it is a shortage or a surplus. Now we're going to put this into the equation that we have for QD, which is QD equals 500 minus 2P. And QS equals minus 100 plus 4P. So we can pick either of the questions. So we should determine if it is a shortage or a surplus. So if we put P equals 90 into QD, we would get 500 minus 2 into bracket 90, which is 500 minus 180, which would give us 320. So this is our quantity demanded. Now quantity supplied will be minus 100 plus 4. Our P is still 90, which will give us minus 100 plus 4 multiplied by 90 is 360, which will give us 260 for this question. So our quantity supply is 260. Now from this question we can see that the quantity demanded is greater than the quantity supplied. And remember I said if the quantity demanded is greater than the supply, it means that there is shortage. It means that there is shortage. That means what, like a lot of people are asking for what I don't have. As a supplier, I said a class of 15, and I have biscuits. I have 40 pieces of biscuits for a class of 50, which means there's not enough to go around, which indicates shortage. So once demand is greater than supply, there is a shortage. And for shortage, I believe I said, okay, I think it's in the previous page. Yes, for shortage, I said it indicates a price floor. So in this question, we have a price floor. And I've answered the B part of the question. So now let's answer the C question says, okay, the B part was asking if to determine if it was a shortage or surplus, which we have answered, and the answer is a shortage. And the C part asked if it is price ceiling or price floor, and we already said from our calculation we got that quantity demand is greater than quantity supply, which is a price floor. Okay, so now moving on to the next subtopic, we're going to be examining the effect of tax, subsidy, and quota on demand and supply equilibrium. Effect of tax, subsidy, and quota on demand and supply equilibrium. Okay. Effect of tax, subsidy, and quota on demand and supply equilibrium. Now, excise tax or duty, whatever it is called, is the tax imposed on goods produced in the country, while tariff is tax imposed on imported goods. Okay, so when tax is imposed, supply reduces because let's assume tax is imposed on the supplier, yeah, and then to produce 5 biscuits, initially you are using 15 naira to produce 5. Then government comes and says, okay, you have to pay tax. That means the supplier has to factor in the tax into the cost of production. That means for every, okay, I think I said 50 or 5. I mean, and the government comes and says, okay, you're paying 10 naira. Definitely, as a supplier, I don't want to spend more than the 15 naira that I usually spend. So I'll reduce the supply to the market. So when tax is imposed, supply reduces because there's been an addition to the cost of production. And when supply reduces, I use demand as an example. So when there's an increase in demand, it means a forward shift. And when there's a decrease in demand, it shows a backward shift. And when there's an increase in supply, it shows a forward shift. And when there's a decrease in supply, it also shows a backward shift. So when tax is imposed, it causes a backward shift in the supply curve. Okay, so let's take another example on demand elasticity. Okay, let's take an example that has to do with tax. So this question says, suppose a tax of 1 naira is placed on the supplier. The tax will decrease the price received by suppliers by 1 naira. So we have the question, quantity supplied equals minus 5 plus 2p. Minus 5 plus 2p. We're saying we want to impose a tax of 1 naira on the supplier. Yeah, demand is 10 minus p. We're imposing a tax of 10 naira on the supplier, so it will be written as minus 5 plus 2p minus 1. This one is the 1 naira that is imposed as tax. Now calculate this, we get minus 5 plus 2p minus 2, which will give us minus 5 cancels out and minus 2 give minus 7 plus 2p. That's for quantity supplied. Now our quantity demanded remains 10 minus p. So this is at equilibrium. At equilibrium, we now have, okay, sorry, at equilibrium we have minus 7 plus 2p equals 10 minus p. Equals 10 minus p. Minus 7 minus 10 equals minus p minus 2p. Okay. So here we have minus 17 equals minus 3p. 2p equals minus 17 over minus 3. Okay, so the minus cancels out and then you have 17 over 3. 17 over 3 gives, when you break it down, gives 5.67. Okay, that's the price that we got after the 1 naira was imposed on the supplier. That's the new price. So now suppose let's put our new price of 5.67 into the supplier's equation. We have minus 7 plus 2 into brackets 5.67. This will give 4.34, which is our quantity supplied. And if we use that price for demand, if we use this price for this 5.67 for demand, our demand equation says 10 minus p. So that will mean 10 minus 5.67, and that gives us 4.33, which is technically the same as this. So yes, our QD equals QS, which shows a state of equilibrium. Okay, well, you can complete the rest. Okay, so that is for tax. An example under tax. Now let's go for an example under quota. Quota is the quantity. Quota, QUOTA, is the quantity of goods that can be imported. That's like the maximum quantity of goods that can be imported. And then consider the effect of a quota of 4/1/3. The quota, the effect of quota of 4/1/3 is placed on the market at equilibrium price and quantity. So quota QS equals 4 1 over 3. We're still using our quantity demanded from the other question. Quantity demanded is also still 10 minus P. So you have 10 minus P equals 4 1 over 3. That's because we said at equilibrium. So this would give P, if you bring this over and this over, this comes over and this comes over, P becomes positive. Then you have 10 minus 4 1 over 3, which gives 5.67. Okay, okay, all right. So that is that. And let us take one more example and we shut down. One more example we shut down. It says, suppose the demand and supply for milk is described by the following equations. QD equals 600 minus 100p. QS equals minus 150 plus 150p. Where price is in naira, quantity demanded is in million liters per year, and quantity supplied is in million liters per year. Create the demand and supply tables corresponding to the two equations, and then confirm your answer to B by solving the equations mathematically. And the last part talks about graphically supply the demand and determine the elasticity of production, and the elasticity, the price equilibrium, sorry, and quantity and equilibrium quantity and equilibrium price. So I'm not going to be working on the graph part because obviously we don't have a graph. But let's solve the first part. It says create the demand and supply tables corresponding to the two equations. So our table will be something like this: price, demand, and supply. Okay, so we're just assuming that if when our price is 1, what would our demand and supply be? So we have QD equals 600 minus 100. When price is 1, QD will be equals to 600 minus 100, which is equals to 500. While QS will be equal to minus 150 plus 150 into bracket 1, which is equal to minus 150 plus 150, which is 0. This is 0. So when price is 1, quantity demanded is 500, quantity supplied is 0. So when price, that's when P equals 1. And when P equals 2, quantity demanded equals, quantity demanded equals 600 minus 100 to 600 minus 200. This is 400. Now quantity supplied equals minus 150 plus 150, and our price is 2, which means 1 minus 150 plus 300 ultimately is, sorry, this is 150. Yeah, yeah. So we've gotten our demand to be 400 and our supply to be 150. So that is how you continue and you get when the price is 3, 4, 5. So let's stop at 5. So when our price equals 3, QD will be 600 minus 100, 3, which is 600 minus 300, which is 300. QS will be minus 150 plus 150, 3, 3, which is minus 150 plus 450, which is 300. So both demand and supply when price is 3 is the same. So you can boldly say that our equilibrium price is 3. The equilibrium price is 3 because demand and supply equals at that point price is 3. So price equals 4, quantity demanded equals, I hope you are doing this to your notes. Okay, 600 minus 100, 4 plus 600 minus 400. This is 200. That's what quantity demanded. While for supply, you have minus 150 plus 150 into 4, which is equal to minus 150 plus 600, which will give 450. So demand is 200, supply is 450, and well, let me just put this in red. This one, I'm not going to solve it. I believe you're going to do it by yourself. 600 and 100. Okay. So that has brought us to the end of the class, the end of this topic, demand and supply. So I basically focused on demands. Supply is similar. So I expect you guys to go back and check out other notes, watch videos on how to on theory of supply, elasticity of supply, and every other thing that we spoke about. Thank you guys for listening. Until next time. Bye.